This is a short video on how to write your chapters for your PhD report. There are five basic chapters, which is the introduction, literature review, and the research methodology. The fourth chapter is analysis and the discussion, and the last chapter is your conclusion chapter. And in your chapter 1, the most important part of this chapter 1 is you have to make the examiner or the person who is going to evaluate your thesis understand that all you have done is right, that is justifiable. So the first 6 to 7 pages of your thesis should be so strong that you are giving all substantial data to make your area of research or the area of specialization show so true and strong enough. So that is the first major part in your chapter 1. And your chapter 1 should talk more on the theoretical aspects of why did you select that particular variable, and what is the theory behind that variable, and what is the history of the variable and all that. And then you should speak more about the problem statement. Why is that particular point that you are going to do a research work on this? What is it so important going to contribute to the society, or for the future researchers, or for the scientific world? So that is the very important, the problem statement. And you have to give the need for the study, the scope of the study, and you have to give operational definitions. Operational definitions is how you are going to define each and every variable that you are going to use inside the research work. And then you have to end the chapter with the chapterization of the thesis. So this is how chapter 1 is structured. And then comes the chapter 2. In chapter 2 is all about the review of the literature. It speaks about all the past literatures or the reviews that people have already done in your area of research. Now, why it is that you should learn about this literature review when you have a separate problem is that only when you know that there is a path to travel, that people have already traveled in that path, you will know whether the gate is open or not. So at least to understand that there is a long pathway, you should go through all research works that has been earlier done on that particular area. So at least for this sake, you should be very, very confident and done an extensive, exhaustive work on collecting the previous literatures of people who have done research work in that particular area. That will tell you how deep you have gone inside that particular area. And then you are, in fact, it is very good that if you summarize it and you provide it in the form of a table. And the most important part is you have to add on the recent literatures or the recent reviews of that particular area. And if you're talking something in 1950s and 1980s, you're already out of the market. So that is the important point in chapter 2. And chapter 3 is about the research methodology, the very, the research project, because it speaks about the entire methodology very clearly on the conceptual framework, on the research hypothesis, and about the sample design. How did you arrive at the samples? What is the justification between selecting those respondents, and how did you arrive at that sample size? What is the justification behind that, and what are the tools that you're going to use? And the very most important thing is about your scales. Your scales refers to the instruments on how you are going to measure those variables. Is it constructed, or is modified, or is adopted? And what is the psychometric properties of it, whether it is all the psychometric properties refers to the reliability and the validity of your instruments. And have you all tested that reliability and validity? Is it valid enough to use that particular scale? How and if you have not validated, if previous researchers in that particular field validated that questionnaire is all about, that speaks in the chapter 3, and it ends with all the data tools that you're going to use for your research work. This is all about this chapter 3. And chapter 4 comes the major part, that's the analysis, interpretation, and the discussion part. Analysis is all about the tools that you're going to use to estimate or to study to attain all your research objectives. You use various tools like Z-test, ANOVA, there is n number of tools. And then and you interpret all the results. And the most important part of your entire research work or your thesis is the discussion part. The discussion part tells about how purely that you have understood the research topic and what is that you are going to contribute it from the research, because you speak about the previous research, you tell about a methodology that is already structured, but then the data or the results that you get, how are you going to interpret it and write the discussion part is very very important. So discussion part tells tells how smartly or what is the effort of your research work, and then the conclusion part tells about the summarize, it summarizes all the chapters, and then it ends with the, if there is any limitations that you have come across in collecting your data collection, in doing your data collection, or approaching your respondents, or even the selection of the area itself, all that comes in your limitation part. And the most important thing is the recommendation, or recommendations is what is that out of the discussions and the analysis and the interpretation, what is that you're going to tell it to the research world or for the future researchers. And then also, you, the more important thing is you have to give certain directions for the future research, that telling that these variables are studied and it can also include these many variables, or it could be done much better in a different area and all that. So this is the directions for future research. So this is the major essence, and of course it comes with a bibliography, appendix, the scoring pattern and all that, but this is the major essence or important points to be kept when you write a research project. Thank you very much.